I think you're doing great. Everybody in this group's doing great.
Yeah, we're fucking geniuses. Excuse me. We're live on YouTube now. Good morning, everybody. Live on YouTube. Anyway, so grateful to have you all here, and it is festive Friday, and we are in Festivus for the rest of us. It's funny. The other day we went to visit my kids. I'm bringing up this little short story, and because most people are familiar with Seinfeld, so we went and visit. We went and played games with our kids, and we banter back and forth a lot. We're like, always, bantering and like playful arguments. And so when we were driving home, I sent my daughter a text. I said, "All right, of the parents, which do you think were more like, the Seinfelds or the Costanzas?" And and my son-in-law said, "Costanza, Serenity Now." Yeah, that's us, all right. Anyway, good
Yes.
morning, everybody. We're here for the forgiveness in Jesus with Karen and Mickey or Michale, and so I'm grateful to have you all in here. And I'm just going to turn it over to you, Karen and Michale. This mic is all yours.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Lynn. Good morning, Deb, uh, Karen, Sharon, Dove. Uh, I said Lynn, I think, and Mickey. That's who I see on here, and everyone else on YouTube and listening. So yes, thank you, Lynn. We're studying Forgiveness in Jesus, the Meeting Place of A Course in Miracles and Christianity by Kenneth Wapnick, PhD. Karen and I have the 7th edition. Last week, we started chapter 3 on forgiveness and of injustice, the problems of anger, sickness, and suffering. And we started reversal of cause and effect, and we went over Ken's chart on table 2, which has mind and cause, and it shows the decision maker and then the world and effect. And it's also coming, Ken wrote out of chapter 19, he brought up the attainment of peace and the obstacles to peace. So Karen's going to start us off with a prayer before we start. We're on page 68 in 7th edition, and we started on the paragraph, we ended on the paragraph that starts with problems appear in the world. Okay, Karen, would you like to start the prayer off? Thank you.
Thanks, Michale. Good morning, everyone. Start out with a truly helpful prayer to get us grounded, to remember the truth and our true healer. I am here only to be truly helpful. I am here to represent him who sent me. I don't have to worry about what to say or what to do because he who sent me will direct me. I am content to be wherever he wishes, knowing he goes there with me. I will be healed as I let him teach me to heal. Amen. Michale, you're muted.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Karen. Sorry about that. I'll start the reading then from chapter 3, and we're on page 68, and it's where problems appear. I'll start that paragraph. Problems appear in this world because of the ego's success at reversing cause and effect, a dynamic we now explore. The only true cause in this world is the mind. As we discussed in chapter 1, and all aspects of the material world are the mind's effect. There can be no exceptions to this principle, for the mind is the only creative agent. This is so even when it is miscreating or making illusions. Miscreation, or the distortion of God's creative power, is analogous to placing a prism in front of a light. The light that has passed through the prism is broken up and changed, yet is still derived from the pure light, which is the only source. Thus, the phenomenal world is nothing more than the manifestation of these broken rays of light of our mind appearing to us in a physical form. Modern physics tell us these forms of matter are but expressions of energy or thought, for physicists have recognized that there is no true distinction between subject and object. Our thoughts and what we perceive outside ourselves, they are all one. Ideas leave not their source. And so it's always, I'd like to stop here. It's always an outside picture of an inward condition. And I love how Ken brought up the prism, and that the reality is that all the different lights that reflect through the prism, reality is it's all coming from the one, the source. And so we're all one. So it goes back to oneness. And it also reminds me of where Ken always says, does this include everyone? So I have been working on non-judgment, on asking what is the purpose for, and on does it include everyone? And also, it's an outside picture of an inward condition. And so he also brought up about modern physicists, and that they tell us that all forms of matter are expressions of energy or thought. And so that deals with subject object. So I love how he brought this up in this paragraph, and then he went back and discussed that we had discussed this also in chapter 1 of this book. So it's beautiful how Ken keeps bringing us back, and how he introduces us to kind of subject object, and then also it goes in line with the workbook lessons. So would anyone else like to comment on this paragraph here before we move on? Karen, I see your hands up. Please go ahead.
Thanks, Michale. Oh my gosh, I love this. And I love to be reminded that there are no exceptions to this principle, that the world is the only true cause in this world is the mind. And there are no exceptions to this. This is so even when it is miscreating or making illusions. So I love to be reminded of that, because even when I'm believing these thoughts that aren't true, they can't touch the truth of what we are. And I know we all know this, but the aim here is to remove the blocks to love's presence, because it's never ever that light, that pure light that he's talking about, which is the only source, is always shining. It's never ever ever gone. It's just our thoughts that block it. And I love how he reminds us of that, and that miscreation, or the distortion of God's creative power, it's just a distortion. It's not the truth. It's just something that we made up. And it brought me to in chapter 2, where he reminds us that you can temporize and you are capable of enormous procrastination, but you cannot depart entirely from your creator, who set the limits on your ability to miscreate. So for me, that's a reminder that the Holy Spirit is always there. The Holy Spirit is always available there, that I can change my mind, and that infinite patience that, he's always waiting for us to do that. And that I love where he tells us, you are no longer holy and saint, because you always have the opportunity to change your mind and choose again and recognize that it's just this darkness that you're covering over the light. So yes, ideas leave not their source, and all this basic, I say it's like Course in Miracles 101, but it's like the best. It's like the best stuff to be reminded of. Thanks.
Thank you, Karen. Yeah, I love how he brought up the prism, and that he said that the light that's passed through the prism is broken up and changed, yet is still derived from the pure light, which is the only source. So it's saying, you know, he brought up that it's broken up and changed. So it's kind of like the fragments, or, the outside picture, all these all these different individuals. It's still coming from the one source. So, you think it's changed, it's broken up, but it's still the one. So yeah.
Sally said you were going to do corn in the cob and hamburgers tonight, are you?
Sharon, we
Oh, okay.
You mentioned it to her. That's it.
Sharon, mute yourself, sweetie.
okay. Would anyone else like to speak or on corn on the cob and hamburgers? Okay.
I didn't even realize I was on.
I guess
Sorry, girlies. Okay.
I say corn on the cob sounds good to me.
Okay.
okay. I don't see any other hands, so I'll go ahead and read the next paragraph. We have already examined the ego's basic tactic of making smoke screens to conceal the problem's real source in the mind. The process works in this manner. The ego begins by denying the causal connection between the mind and body, therefore denying that the cause of all distress is in the mind that believes in separation. All defenses, to cite again lesson 136, seems to be unconscious, but because of the rapidity with which you choose to use them. And then he brings up workbook 136, sickness is a defense against the truth. So that's that lesson. Once this connection between cause and effect is denied or forgotten, the ego reverses them, projecting the role of cause onto its effect. Thus, it appears that the effect is now the cause, while the cause now seems to be the effect. Effect and cause are first split off denial, and then reversed projection, so that effect becomes a cause, the cause effect. And that's coming from the text chapter 28, which Ken brought up, is the undoing of fear and reversing cause and effect. So he got that from, he brought that chapter up in chapter 28. And so the ego is very clever how it does this and how it reverses it, and then it projects it out. And so then, so you think that your perception, that what you're seeing is true, because the ego reverses this. So would anyone like to talk on this before we go on to the next paragraph? No? Okay, I'll go ahead and then read it.
I'd like to say something. Let me just turn this thing off.
Okay, good.
I'm just doing my nebulizer, so
Okay.
oh, come on, go off. There we go. All right. So this is such a huge thought, because here in the world we consider the effect to be the cause. Like, I was exposed to a disease and therefore I got sick. and so we don't go back to the real cause, then this whole world becomes a world of cause and effect. And they're all false causes because none of them uh, can be reversed. First off, you can't, if you get to the real cause, then there's no place you can go with it. When the cause is God, the cause of everything is God, and we are the effect of God. And so this world, then, we are the cause of this world. The world is an effect of our thinking. So the world is like two steps away from true cause, and can never be resolved and connected to true cause, because we are the middleman. We're the ones who are, we are the prism that is, and that's why Ken was using, was like the Pollyanna, and how, I don't know if you saw that movie Pollyanna, or know of that, but the little girl, found that the crystals would, the rainbow, that when light shined through them, it would put a rainbow in the room. And so she went into the kind of business of giving everybody in town these prisms, so that they could have these rainbows. But that the prism is not the cause of the rainbow. The prism is what breaks up the light and turns it into different forms, different shapes. So we are like the prism, and God is like the sun, the cause of the actual light that goes through it. But if you remove the prism, then all that is coming through is pure light, and it's pure white light. White light is all the colors in one. So even our color wheel, even our color theory, and Sharon knows about this. She's an artist. This color, and you probably all know about it because you went to school. But the color theory is, you know, it seems like, yes, blue is an independent being, and red is an independent being, and all these different colors and all the ones in between, which are billions of them, are all different independent beings. But all of us are the light that shine through the crystal, that's just appears to be turned into all these different colors. And if you put them all back together, they become white, just pure white and pure light. That's what happens when you remove the crystal. And as pretty as we like it is, and much as we like to have the rainbow, um, the truth and reality is the essence of all of it. And we're just seeing a secondhand. I mean, as much as we love the colors, it is a secondhand light, and none of them are perfect. None of them are pure. None of them are complete, whole, because they're a fraction of the one. So I love that he uses that um, prism analogy, and it made me think of that little girl Pollyanna, and she changed those people's worlds by showing them the light through the crystal, and that's what Jesus is doing. He's changing our lives by showing us the light that is the cause, and that everything else is just an effect, or a second hand or third hand or fourth hand effect, on down to, you know, all the crap that's in the world. So anyway, that's what I thought, I was thinking at the time. So I'll turn it back to you guys.
Thank you, Lynn. That I love how you brought that up, and about the white, the color, the white, and that it has all the colors in it. And then you related that to the prison. That was really wonderful, beautiful. Um, and it's the one. Thank you so much. Would anyone else like to comment? Karen, please go ahead.
Thank you, Lynn. And I also like how you reminded us, that God is the first cause and we are his effects with a capital E, which she reminds us in chapter 2, in section 7, under cause and effect. And he says that actually cause, capital C, quote unquote, is a term properly belonging to God, and his effect, capital E, quote unquote, is his son. And this is just another ideas, like not their source, the separation never happens. This entails a set of cause and effect relationships totally different from those you introduce into miscreation. The fundamental conflict in this world then is between creation and miscreation. All fear is implicit in the second, and all love in the first. So all fear comes from miscreation, and all love comes from creation, which we know that we are extensions of God. We are extending love, and extension is another word for creation. We are extending love when we are in our right mind and remembering the true cause. And then we're projecting when we're miscreating, remembering that, forgetting who we are, forgetting that we are the effect of God, and there is nothing else that exists but that. And that is profound, and I cannot be reminded enough, because every single problem we have is forgetting the truth of what we are. That is where our problems lie. So I really love this. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Karen. Anyone else like to comment on anything before we move on? No? Okay. All right, I'll start the next paragraph reading then. The world of separation has become the cause of the mind's suffering. An external agent is experienced as a happening beyond your state of mind, an outcome with a real effect on you instead of one affected by yourself. And then Ken put in again the workbook lesson 136, which is sickness is a defense against the truth. Now, of course, no problem can ever be solved or healed, for the magical remedies are sought outside yourself. Indeed, we should never underestimate the power of denial. This entire world rests on the idea that we have forgotten we made it up. We are all extremely capable on an individual ego level, as well as the larger collective ego we all share, of not recognizing the most obvious, let alone the subtle causes of our distress. As we see in Table 2, cause only lies in the mind, while effects are in the world. So again, Ken is bringing up from the chapter 28, the undoing of fear. So this is how to undo the fear, and also reversing cause and effect. So he brought up that this world that we see, that we've projected, our perception, he says we've literally made it up. So, and then he brought up workbook lesson 136 again, which is sickness is a defense against the truth. So would anyone like to comment on this? Karen, I see your hand up. Please go ahead.
Thanks, Michale. Wow, there's a lot in this paragraph, and this is the cause of every problem. The world of separation has become the cause of the mind suffering. The Course reminds us that a sense of separation from God is the only lack we really need correct. And that is the one problem that is the belief that we made this whole thing up. The belief that we separated from God, the belief that I am this body, the belief that this body is the cause of my upset. the belief that that I wish things were different, all those things are anger, sickness, suffering, all forms of injustice. You did this to me. If I wasn't walking down the street that day and got hit by that car, none of this would be happening right now. But the cause is only the belief that I separated from God, only the belief that I am listening to the teacher of anger, sickness, and suffering, and not listening to the Holy Spirit, which is that light that we're talking about, that truth that we're talking about, that we never separate, that ideas leave not their source. And then he talks about this external agent is experienced as a happening beyond your state of mind. And he tells us so clearly in chapter 21 introduction that projection makes perception. It is a witness to your state of mind, an outside picture of an inward condition that we keep reminding each other of. Because to me, I think it's so easy to forget when you're in, how can I word this, where your physical, when you identify with the body, it is miscreating, it is only fearful. So it takes that miracle, the miracle of reversing cause and effect, reversing that projection, projecting the unhealed guilt I have onto my body, believing it's real, made up story, totally made up story that we're being told here. And we should never underestimate the power of denial. And I don't know if that was something Helen said. I remember Ken talking about it once. I don't know that it's in the course. Maybe Dove or Lynn remembers. I think Helen must have said that once, that it was never underestimate the power of denial. This entire world rests on the idea that we have forgotten and we made it up. And he tells us, in the course that, we're like little children playing with these toys, and we make, Helen said it. Thank you, Dove. He talks about, like, we play with these toys and we make these toys do these things, and then we talk to the toys and we tell them what to say and what to do, and we believe it's real. It's make believe, but we believe it's real. And then we start as children believing our thoughts, believing what we're, it's true, and then we tell these stories as we grow older and we believe them. So this is that, as Michale said, it's the undoing of the fear. It's the undoing of years and years of conditioning, and recognizing that the secret of salvation is I am doing this to myself, and I am responsible for what I see, and I am the decision-making mind. So I also love where he reminds us that this world is a hallucination. And what if you recognize that you made it up? What if you really recognize that? And to really look at that and sit with that and see that is just so profound and helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen, for bringing that up. And yeah, it helps too that if you can look at it and realize that, step back, pause, take that breath, look at it with the eyes of Jesus or the Holy Spirit, realize that, you made it up. Then it's that you can kind of laugh at it. It's like the tiny manna idea. You can laugh at it at that point and see that, you made it up, and then ask, what is the purpose for, and it's an outside picture of an inward condition. And, when you realize that you made it up, it goes in line with the lesson, which is 136, sickness is a defense against the truth. And so this also goes to with today's workbook lesson, which is 234, Father, today I am your son again. And in Ken's journey through the workbook, he brought up gratitude to God becomes the way, which is from the manual for teachers. Gratitude to God becomes the way in which he is remembered, for love cannot be far behind a grateful heart and thankful mind. God enters easily, for these are the true conditions for your homecoming. And, it's also love is the way that I walk in gratitude. So when you realize and you look at it, that you made it all up and, and the ego and on reversing cause and effect, and you can kind of laugh at it and, also come to a state of gratefulness, a grateful heart. And I don't know, which one, if it was Tara Singh or Helen Schuckman, who said, whatever you're grateful for, you will never be denied. And so it's walking in that state then of gratefulness and, right, leading you to right-mindedness, being the observer. So Ken's also said that the observer is the right mind. So would anyone else like to comment on this before we go to the small little paragraph to end this chapter? And no, we're not ending the chapter. Then we go into the problem of anger. I'm sorry. Would anyone else like to comment on this? No? Okay. Then I'll read the small little chapter. And here, among the most tempting of the world's problems that the ego would make real are three specific forms of injustice: anger, sickness, and suffering. These will be the focus of this chapter. Two other major problems, sex and money, will be discussed in chapters 4 and 5, respectively. So now we're going to go into the problems of anger. And so he brought up here in the last paragraph that these are the three specific forms of injustice. Anger is one, sickness is the second one, which goes in line with that workbook lesson again, 136. Sickness is a defense against the truth, and then suffering. So that's all coming from projection, and it's all coming from the ego. And so would anyone like to comment on this before we start the problem of anger? No? Okay. I'll go ahead and start the problem of anger then. As any psychotherapist knows, anger, or the special hate relationship, is one of the central problems confronting most people. Its widespread interest today, not only in psychological but religious circles as well, warrants special discussion as one of the ego's most important weapons in its war against God. So I'll go ahead, Karen, and read the next paragraph too. For the first 50 years of this century, the psychological approach to feelings or emotions was dominated largely by Freud and the psychoanalyst, who emphasized analysis and sublimation rather than expression as the solution to the problem. It is helpful to remember that the soil that gave birth to psychoanalysis was Victorian Vienna of the late 19th century, and Freud's theoretical approach was very much in keeping with the mores of his time, which looked negatively on the expression of feelings. Therefore, although Freud would have encouraged the analysis of feelings rather than their repression, the result often was the latter. So do you want me to read the next paragraph, Karen and Lynn, or do you want me to stop?
Yeah, unless anyone has a comment.
I do have a comment because I think what he just said very, very clearly is that, excuse me, the way that they were treating anger was like what we're doing with a lot of things, feelings. And I'm not gonna say anything against anybody else's teaching, but we're given two different things. Feelings are come up to be let go of, or feelings come up to be looked at. And during the Freud time, it appears that they were trying to, just kind of control people. And so feelings are dangerous and people with feelings are dangerous to people who are trying to control them because, excuse me, feelings do not come up just to be let go of. Feelings come up to point out to us the problems that we're suppressing. And so uh, Freud would have encouraged the analysis of feelings rather than the suppression. But we grew up our lives being told, just, sit down and shut up, just stuff it. Your feelings don't have any meaning. They're not necessary. They don't help us. Yeah, don't be prim and proper. Don't show your feelings. And so that repression was so strong that I mean, we repressed ourselves. I mean, we were basically Puritan. The whole country of the United States, especially, was influenced by the mores of the Puritans, which, believe it or not, were my ancestors. Came over here on the Mayflower to just so that they could be pure and get away from uh the everything that was related to feeling and emotion, and very definitely repressing feelings and emotions. So that's how this country was kind of formed into, just stuff it. When you're feeling something, just stuff it. And we get that through the church, we get that through everything. And so back in the 60s when I was a teenager, there came up a whole thing called like a social revolution, and the love revolution. And suddenly kids were like, no, we're not going to stuff our feelings anymore. We are going to express ourselves, and we're going to get out there and march because we're mad about this war. I mean, you didn't, World War II, you didn't see people out marching in the streets. Korea, you didn't see people out marching in the streets. Vietnam, my generation were like, to hell with that. We want to be free, and we want to we want to express ourselves. And there was, just a huge explosion, and to get away from those heathen Catholics, exactly, this huge explosion of feeling that was unrepressed, un I mean, once it got loose, you couldn't stop it. And and believe me, they tried. I had friends that were put into mental institutions because they were expressing their feelings. And so uh, this whole idea that, what do our feelings have to say about anything, became very apparent after a while, that we that it just couldn't be. Anyway, those were just some thoughts I had about that. And I see Karen has her hand up.
Excellent, excellent points, Lynn. Thank you so much. And what came up for me when you were speaking was a number one, Catholic school. And then number two, the way we were raised. I know the way I was raised, it was like, well, number one, do as I say, not as I do. And then secondly, shut up and listen. And the parent was right, we were wrong. And so what that taught me and my brothers and sisters, and what happened was, as we grew up and got older and went into relationships, right? Communication was lacking. So I noticed when my brother's first marriage failed, it was a lack of communication. The second marriage failed, lack of communication. Second, my brother, my youngest brother, same thing with his marriage. My marriage, huge part of the divorce was because it was a lack, not knowing how to express my feelings, stuffing them when something was really bothering me. And so what did I do? I blamed him. He was the problem. If he wouldn't have done this, I wouldn't have got upset. So I learned to project. I learned to blame. Um, and what happened for me through A Course in Miracles was learning to take responsibility and recognizing what happened and the pattern of how it happened from childhood, from school to relationships to marriage to divorce. And it was a pattern throughout my life. And now I can see it and I see where it creeps in. It can still creep in. And it's lack of self-esteem. It brings lack of self-esteem. I'm not valuable. I'm not good enough. My voice doesn't matter. That's a very shameful thing for a child. At least the alcoholism, drug abuse. I mean, there's so much that comes from this, and so much that came from it through what I saw growing up. So I think it's so important what you brought up, Lynn, and I think recognizing that we are responsible and that we everything that we feel, yes, I am responsible for what I see. I am responsible for the teacher that I listen to, but I'm also responsible to share how I am feeling, because if I don't and I repress it, it's going to come out in anger. And anger is never justified, because it's not justifiable to blame an outside picture for my inward condition when we're undoing, as Michale said, and as the course is reminding us. So I just am so grateful you brought that up, because it has helped me look at that pattern of repression and learn to not repress like I used to. And I'm very grateful for that. So thanks.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Lynn. I'm grateful that both of you brought that up. And yeah, anger, it's not justified, and it's one of the three specific forms of injustice. So it also comes from a feeling of injustice, is what Ken is bringing up here: anger, sickness, and suffering. And would anyone else like to comment on this before we go on to the next paragraph? Karen, I see your hands up again. Thank you.
Yeah, Michale, thank you. And the injustice comes, and the anger comes from the injustice, because when that anger is repressed, it has nowhere to go but project. So we project the blame, and that's the injustice, that you did this to me. When I cannot see that I'm doing it to myself because I'm repressing these feelings, and that is gigantic. I mean, it's a gigantic lesson that I learned here. So thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Yeah, and then that's the ego always blaming. It's an outside picture, but it's an outside picture of an inward condition. So yeah, the anger comes from the injustice. It's a big one. So would anyone else like to comment here before I read the next paragraph? No? Okay, I'll go ahead and read this. Part of the third force reaction against psychoanalysis discussed in the introduction to part 1 included interest in T groups, encounter groups, sensitivity training, marathon experiences, etc. These turned Freudian conservationism upside down and swung the pendulum of dealing with emotions to the other extreme. No longer bound to repress or sublimate feelings, followers of this movement were encouraged to express what they felt and break through the suppressive influence of society. Couples having marital problems, for example, were urged to fight it out. And indeed, expressing one's feelings became the panacea for almost all our ills, including the prevention of psychosomatic disturbances. So now it's shifted. And so now Ken brought up how these turned the Freudian conservationism upside down and swung the pendulum of dealing with emotions to the other extreme. So they, different groups, sensitivity training. I don't know if anyone has any experience in this and would like to comment about this particular time and era and what took place in history. So, because Ken is bringing up, a little bit about history and what happened here. Would anyone like to comment on this section before we move on?
Yeah, I put up here because we hear the word psychosomatic. And so the definition of psychosomatic, which I love the way that this Kindle, you can actually just click on a word and it'll bring up the definition of physical illness or other condition. So we're talking about the mind, uh, uh, the physical illness or other condition caused or aggravated by a mental factor, such as internal conflict or stress. And this is what we've always heard. Her doctor was convinced that most of ego's problems were psychosomatic. Psychosomatic sounds to me like, oh, you're just crazy, and that's the reason you're feeling this way. But as Joe Dispenza tells us, this psychosomatic is really just relating to the interaction of mind and body, psychosomatic. And so when we hear these words psychosomatic, doesn't mean that a person is being a what do they call it? Uh, when your problem is in your mind and
Hypochondriac?
hypochondriac. Thank you so much. I couldn't even think of that word. So I must be in real resistance for that. But yeah, but it's not hypochondria they're talking about. This is talking about the soma, the psychosomatic, the effect of the mind on the body. And that is very real because the body is an effect of the mind. The body itself is an effect of the mind. So what we're experiencing here is a psychosomatic experience. And so that's why, the clearing of the mind or making a clearing of your experience, your thinking, your thoughts, your feelings, whatever, can actually lead to a healthier body experience because we're no longer projecting that psychological guilt onto the body. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out because when people say psychosomatic, a lot of times people think you're being a hypochondriac, but it's not being a hypochondriac. It is actually a true effect that the mind has on the body. And the mind, when the mind is sick, it can make the body very sick. And that doesn't mean that your sickness is your fault because you are not thinking correctly. It just means that you're seeing yourself as something that you're not, and therefore experiencing yourself as a sick body. Anyway, I see Karen and Mickey both have their hands up, so I will let go and turn it over to you.
I think Mickey was first.
I'll go first only because oh shoot, they're starting with the machines outside. I think it's really interesting that nowadays there's an actual therapy called somatic therapy. And I looked it up because I wasn't sure exactly what it was. And it says somatic therapy focuses on the connection between the mind and body to facilitate healing, particularly from trauma and stress. Practitioners use body-based technique like breath work, mindful movement, and guided awareness exercises to help individuals become more aware of bodily sensations and release pent-up tension and trauma. This approach often integrates with traditional talk therapy. I just think that is so telling that we've gone from thinking psychosomatic disturbances were such a bad thing, but now we're using that as a form of therapy. How times change. Thanks.
Thank you, Mickey. That was really wonderful. Yeah, about the psychosomatic therapy and how times change, and we're using that now. And that it's also helps. It's part of the looking process, looking at that hidden, lifting the veil, looking at that hidden guilt and fear. And sometimes on a physical level, it's buried, in the body. So that all helps. Those are all tools. So Karen, thank you, Mickey, again. Karen, please go ahead.
No, I changed my mind. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Would anyone else like to comment on this? No? Okay. I'll go ahead and read the next paragraph. A similar pattern occurred within many religious circles. For centuries, as an example, Christians were urged to turn the other cheek when confronted by an anger-inducing situation, and almost literally to sit on their feelings rather than commit the sin of self-expression. But the significant innovations of the post-Vatican II Catholic Church, as well as other Christian churches, including the Pentecostal and Charismatic movements, created an atmosphere of liberation similar to psychology's undoing several centuries of constraint. Church members were now urged to become more in touch with their feelings and to express them. So Ken's bringing up a part of history again. So he's like a good teacher. He's taking us into more of so that we can get a picture of how this changed. And so now it changed that within these religious circles for members to become more in touch with their feelings and to express them. So would anyone like to comment on this section before we move into the next paragraph? Karen, I see your hands up. Please go ahead.
Thanks, Michale. Yeah, I like how Ken's bringing up history. His knowledge is so amazing, and his teaching. So Christians were urged to turn the other cheek when confronted by an anger-inducing situation, and almost literally to sit on their feelings rather than commit the sin of self-expression. So there's the repression right there. I'm repressing it because it would be a sin to, I better sit on this because, oh my gosh, that would show I'm such a horrible person. I shouldn't have these thoughts. I'm a Catholic. I'm religious, and so what came to me was how the Course, kind of with religion, how they offer us another way to look at, just like the resurrection and the crucifixion, also with turning the other cheek. With turning the other cheek, it would be like, so as far as anger is concerned, if someone's angry at me, or seemingly angry at me, or blows up at me, I do not have to allow that anger to have an effect on me. So it's showing turning the other cheek, according to the Course, is not allowing anything other than God to affect you, which is true denial, similar to true denial. It's similar to true denial. And it would be like, I just was listening to Ken this morning at the very end, and in the reading of today's reading, they were saying from the Gift of Lilies in chapter 20, section 2, if we offer him thorns, you are crucified. If you offer him lilies, you are free. So that's what turning the cheek is. We're holding nothing against our brother because we're holding nothing against ourselves. If I offer you forgiveness, then you are free. If I offer you thorns, I'm crucifying myself. So the turning the other cheek, I love how it's teaching us to take responsibility, and all these old ideas are undone. This is the undoing of the fear. Thanks.
Thank you, Karen, for bringing that up. And yeah, that helps with the undoing to looking at the fear and the guilt. So you have to look. And would anyone else like to comment on this section before we move on to the next section? No? Okay. I'll read the next section then. From the standpoint of the ego, the situation could not have worked out more to its advantage. For given the two alternatives, repression or expression, it cannot lose. Either way, anger has been made into the problem that must be solved, and the true problem, the underlying guilt, is hidden effectively behind the ego's smokescreen. Based upon this, anger is seen as if it were a qualifiable mass of energy, a basic human emotion that requires an outlet either through sublimation, which is the Freudian idea, or direct expression. However, anger is not a basic human emotion at all. The Course teaches that you have but two emotions, and one you made and one was given you. And Ken brought up that's from the text, chapter 13, which is the guiltless world and the fear of redemption. Love given us by God, and fear, the ego's substitute for God's love. Emotions such as joy, happiness, peace, and contentment are expressions of love, while feelings of disappointment, frustration, anxiety, jealousy, despair, depression, and anger are derived from fear. We have already seen how anger results from the projection of guilt set into motion by our fear of it. The basic problem, therefore, is not anger, but the guilt that it conceals. As long as the anger is given primary attention, the guilt goes unnoticed, and the ego's diversionary tactics of seek but do not find will have been successful. As was shown in the diagram, anger belongs on the right side of table 2, the effect of the real problem, our decision to be guilty. So this is beautiful how Ken brought this up again, and how last week we went into table 2, and on the right, that anger belongs to the right, he's saying here, and that anger comes from our decision to be guilty. And again, it's the looking. You have to look at it. So, because anger results from the projection of guilt, which is set into motion by our fear of it, Ken says. So, and then also I love how he brought in chapter 13, the guiltless world, and the fear of redemption. So a lot of fear there, but you have to look at it. So would anyone else, we're getting on the end of the hour now. So would anyone like to comment on this before we close for this Friday morning? No? Oh, Karen. Okay, go ahead, Karen.
I thought I saw Karen's hand up. Sharon's
Yeah.
up also.
Oh, good. Thank you, Michale. Yeah, I just love this. And you know, anger has been an issue for me for a very long time, and that was my major character defect I was working on when I was in Alcoholics Anonymous, because especially when I would drink, I would get very angry. All those emotions would come up. And one of the ways I expressed my anger was breaking glass. I would literally break glass. And I love the sound of it. I love the feel of it. And one day I put my fist through, I was living with my dad at the time, and I put my fist through one of his windows. And he made me pay for it. And then I stopped doing that. So, but that's funny. I'm just being funny. But so that's sublimation. It's a that's sublimation because the way I used my anger, I would take it out on something like, rather than, deal with it. That would be similar to someone going to a gym and working out. That would be a more positive sublimation. My sublimation was breaking things. So learning to look at it and learning to deal with it was through A Course in Miracles. I've been through therapy, I've been through all kinds of stuff, but looking at the true problem, which is the underlying guilt, and it's that fear of looking at it, the fear of looking at the guilt, which I learned to look, which is forgiveness, looking, waiting, and not judging it, and being gentle with myself has helped me so much. So the process of true forgiveness through A Course in Miracles has been one of the most helpful gifts, learning that it's not the problem. The problem is not outside of me, because there is nothing outside of me, that I am the cause. And maybe jumping ahead of myself with this teaching, what he's teaching here, but if we don't look at the guilt, we will hide it, we will suppress it, and we will project it. Like Michale said, it has to be looked at. Thanks.
Thanks, Karen. That was beautiful. Sharon, please go ahead.
Okay. What I see in me is the anger was always something. When I was a child, I was afraid of anger because my parents they were like George Costanza's parents. Like they just screamed, and I couldn't have a voice in the house because my older sister was like that. So when I met my first therapist, who I was with for many, many years when I was like 24, um, I told her like all this repressed stuff, like I'm so close with this one and that one, and it wasn't true at all. I was very angry with my mother. I never showed anger with my mother. And my mother, but what happened was, and this is funny, when I was getting my period in my late 30s, I became my mother. I was a rager. And so, because I never, and my therapist said, well, I did tell you to acknowledge your anger, but not to act like your mother. Well, good luck. The ego only digests what it knows. So I had a really hard time, especially with my ex-husband, because I knew he was, playing like hide and seek with me, like, just always lying. But, the anger now, what's happened for me now is I don't have that. I don't react like I did. The reaction has left. It did, I have to be honest, I did pop up when I saw something that they're doing in the administration that really did get me angry, but I came back and realized that was Sharon. I don't have to do anything but realize Sharon is not who I am because she's not real. So all my stories are not real. So when I really put the focus and what Karen and Nick, everybody in this group today was spot on, and it was just a great class, a great group of people just explaining this fabulous book. And what I see now is, because there's always a pause. You can always pause before, because the anger is always at me anyway. It's never about anything else. It's like we're in this like straitjacket of an ego that we believe is us. So it was just very helpful, like in explaining the fact that everything here is love, no matter what it looks like. So, I did have like a reaction yesterday to something. And, what I did with it wasn't as therapeutic as I would have hoped. I didn't give it to Holy Spirit. And that's basically what you have. It's just like the 12 steps. They're so similar in the sense that you turn everything over. And now it's surrender. I mean, to really be devoted to surrender, because we don't know what we are. We thought we were these people, but we are not. We are the one that's watching this show. It's just like I felt like I was here over 70 years. No, we're not. There's no here-ness because I am still where I've always been. My life goes on, with this little sidekick that we have, this little show that we're in. it's not something that we want to take seriously because it is getting, it's funny how the energy is recycling. That's what I think is happening in the political scene. It's just an energy of recycling of what happened many years ago. So it's kind of like you can intellectualize all you want, but it's all nothing. It's all just thought. So I forgive myself for being a child of God. Anyway, that's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Sharon. Your sharings are always so beautiful and honest. Such a beautiful process, with all of you here and all of us, working through this. And now we're discussing anger, one of the three uh, forms of what the ego feels as injustice. So thank you for that sharing. And I think Lynn has her hand up, and then I'll end with a little prayer. So please go ahead, Lynn.
Okay, so I won't take long. I know Carrie doesn't mind on Pal Talk. This reminds me of something we read last night in A Course of Love, and it was talking about when the split occurred, what we were left with was a longing for love, because we felt like we had broken off from it, that we've separated from it, which is exactly, I think that the problem here is that we think we're separate from love. And so when we're talking about anger and fear and all the things that we say are those are negative emotions, whatever, they are expressions of our longing. When a baby can't speak, they're going to use what they can to express, and that's how we are. We're children. We don't see that the reason I'm upset about this thing is because I'm longing for the love, and when I'm seeing something that doesn't appear to be the love, I get frustrated and angry. It's all love or a call for love. That's all it can be, is love or a call for love. So that call for love, that longing that we experience, uh, if we understand that it really is that sense of loss and frustration, and that I don't feel like I'm I feel anger, upset, fear, all that kind of stuff, because I don't think that I'm connected. I don't think I have any backup. I don't think I have any, that no one really loves me, and uh, that lack of love is the cause of fear. So it's all about love. There's nothing here that isn't about love. It's either I have love or I want love. I'm looking for love, or I found love. It's all it is that longing for love. And reminding Jackson Brown song. But anyway, but the longing for love is really uh, what it is. And if we could just call it that, God damn it, I need love here. And I'm going to bust something. And it's funny, Karen, because my granddaughter, who is also a Scorpio, her, when she was younger, she would do that. She would bust her hand into the wall. She broke her finger, uh, busting her hand onto something because she was so angry. And it is that just that feeling of, I don't have what I need right now. And if I had everything I needed right now, I would never ever be angry or afraid. Anyway, that's really all I have to say. And thanks you guys so much. And turn it back to you, Mickey,
Oh,
for your poem.
thank you, Lynn, for that. Yeah, one of my sons too did that with that Karen shared and you just shared, about taking your fist and busting something up. And it's really nice how Ken brings up it's one of the three uh, forms of the feelings of injustice. So Karen's Wi-Fi went out, so I have her on my phone on speaker, and then I don't know if you want to say anything, Karen. Otherwise, I'll go ahead and end it because we're going into Carrie's time uh, with the prayer. And the prayer, go ahead, Karen.
Just thank you, everybody. My electric went out, so I have no Wi-Fi or anything. But Thank you, and thank you for calling me, Michale, so I can listen to the end of the meeting. Love you
Okay.
guys.
Love you too. Thank you, Karen. Okay, so I'm going to take this prayer from today's lesson and lesson 234. Father, today I am your son again. We thank you, Father, that we cannot lose the memory of you and of your love. We recognize our safety and give thanks for all the gifts you have bestowed on us, for all the loving help we have received, for your eternal patience and the world which you have given us, that we are saved. Thank you, and happy Friday, everyone. Thank you all.
Thank you, Michale. I love you. Thank you, Karen. You guys are awesome. And everyone else who's here, I love you all. And I'm going to go ahead and close this out. And
Thank you.
thank you. We'll be turning the mic over to Carrie on Pal Talk. So love y'all. We'll be back at what is it, 11:30 for the Joel Goldsmith